This is another executive order that Trump signs, right? It says ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunities. So this is regarding this whole DEI initiative. I'm going to read this because the gaslighting that is happening is insane. So this is Trump, a white male, right, who was gifted hella money from his family, right? So he was already born with power, which we obviously cannot relate because as not only minorities, we're women of color at that, we're already like 90 stages behind. But this is the victimization of these people. I'm gonna read this. Oh no, I can't read the top, but something blank, roughly 60 years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, critical and influential institutions of American society, including the federal government and influential. No. Let me start that again. Roughly 60 years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, critical and influential institutions of American society, including the federal government, major corporations, financial institutions, the medical industry, large commercial airlines, law enforcement agencies, and institutions of higher education have adopted and actively used, quote, dangerous, demeaning, and immoral race and sex-based preferences under the guise of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion, or diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility that can violate the civil rights laws of this nation. Baby, you cannot make this stuff up. That's why I brought it, because I need this. This is a real legal thing. So it says illegal DEI and DEIA policies not only violate the text and spirit of our long-standing federal civil rights laws, they also undermine our national unity as they deny, discredit, and undermine the traditional American values of hard work, excellence, and individual achievements in favor of an unlawful, corrosive, and pernicious identity-based spoil system. Hardworking Americans who deserve a shot at the American dream should not be stigmatized, demeaned, or shut out of opportunities because of their race or sex. What?
Before you go, Shayla, to touch on that last point where he is basically said that because of race you can't be shut out of any opportunity. I rarely hear. Now y'all tell me if I'm wrong. I've rarely heard a white person walk up to me and tell me that they weren't allowed an opportunity because they were white. But maybe that's just me, right? But maybe that's just me. And the way that Trump is moving, especially, mind you, let's remember the percentages of races that voted for him, right? It was like for like Latinos, it was like 56, 57, something like that, right? The way Trump is moving against y'all, you would think that Melania cheated with a Latino. I'm just saying the way he moving is very, very vindictive, very, very much so that. I have sent Sheyla this thing, right? Where it basically said that, what did it say? Hold on, I don't want to lie to y'all. That the Trump administration shut down the Spanish language website and social media accounts, right? So basically everything that was translated for people who were like, who do speak Spanish and stuff like that, all shut down. And when I sent it to Sheyla, I sent the laughing emojis because it's just like, at one point, it's like you gotta look at that and be like, it's laughable. Because it's just like Sheyla said in the beginning of the show, one thing I can never not give Trump credit for, he said he was going to do everything he was going to do, right? But because we knew that, we knew what to expect, which is why I knew not to watch the inauguration, because I already knew what to expect. I already know before these executive actions that he signed off on were announced, I already knew what was going to happen. But the amount of people who are now going on social media stunned, shocked, can't believe he's doing this, that, and the third. What? Are you blind? Y'all walked into the voting poll not knowing what this man was already going to do? No, because you didn't think you were going to be impacted. But when them tariffs are set in place, don't sit there and get on social media. Eggs are $30. Nah, swipe your card, Susan. It's okay. You got it, baby.
And the reason why this DEI, like, to me, it infuriates me because it is saying that Black people, Latino, any minority group it's like, oh, well, they're not getting these opportunities because they deserve it or they have the skills. They're getting it just simply because they are XYZ. That is not true. Like, I don't care how much you try to gaslight me into thinking, oh, well, I remember there was like a black, what do you call the people that drive planes?
Pilot.
Okay, thank you. So they were like, oh, if there's a black pilot, you're like, oh, well, I have a black pilot because they have a DEI initiative. Do you think, like, do you actually think that they will allow someone to drive a plane simply because they have a skin color? Like, let's be for real. Like, let us think about it. I do not, like, why do you think these initiatives were made? They were put in place because there were so many qualified people that have the skills, that have the education. But guess what? Every company is still primarily all white and male. Not because there wasn't people like Rebecca and me that aren't qualified, but because, let's be honest, a lot of these jobs is who you know. So all these group of white people also know a whole lot of other white people, and they help their white people grow and get these roles. It is not because we are not qualified. And it literally pisses me off because here you have people like Rebecca and I that have been stuck in entry-level positions, not because we don't have the skills. We go above and beyond. We have the skills. But the only thing we don't have is people, I guess, that believe in us. Why? I don't know. But it's like, you do need these things because, especially if you're leading a government, this is why things like these happen. If the government is just full of white people, they're obviously going to pass legislation or do things just to benefit their people. They're not going to pass legislation or even think about minorities because they have no connection to us.
And to that point, it's like people are like, oh, but it's all about people considering the other side. You can't consider something you don't understand. You can't consider and try to make decisions to fit groups of people that you don't have any experience or understand what the day-to-day looks like for them, right? As much as, let's say, if it was for me being a Haitian American, if I was put in place to make decisions for Latinos, Asian, any like minority group outside of my own, there's certain things I just don't know. I would have to ask Sheyla, oh, what is this? Like, how do you feel about this? What if I was to make this choice? Do you think that fits? Like, does that follow the culture? I would have to go ask those type of questions. But if you put me in that, I don't ask no questions. I don't have nobody else to confirm or verify around me, which is why we see a lot of these different companies when they do stupid stuff, like when Gucci put a black neck with big lips. Like, you don't have people in those rooms who can speak out against that because y'all don't consider those things.
So how do you feel about this whole idea? Because this is what the conservatives and white people, like these white leaders, think. They're saying that color blindness is the way to go. They think that if we focus on race, or we, talk about how certain minority groups are treated different or live a different or have a different experience, that's like a bad thing. Like, they want, no, we're all the same. It's not about your color. It's not about this. It's like, it is discrediting systemic racism. How do you feel about that? This whole notion of like color blindness is the way that we should be living life.
And it's just like the way I'm gonna try and say this and as coherently as possible.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of color blindness is literally impossible unless you are actually colorblind. I can
Girl, it's
you can't tell me that, especially if you, as like, I've never been a white person, as you can see. The only time I was white was when I was born out the womb, and that's my little 10 seconds. That's the only experience I got, right? So I can only think that if you, as like, I'm gonna say this as a white, like if you as a white male walk into a room, you automatically are seen as not only powerful. I don't think that, but most people, like, as a society, that's how they make you look, as powerful, as you're automatically an authoritative figure. You're this, you're that, and everything, right? If a black man walks into the room, the first thing you thinking is aggressor,
Ghetto, from the streets,
from the
drugs.
street, this, that, and whatever, right? And it's just like those things are automatically attached, especially the way society and our like everything's been built. Those are automatically the types of notions that are attached to different people of different races. If I walk into a room, you don't, and I before I even open my mouth, the first thing you're gonna think is loud, ratchet, ghetto. You don't know me. You see my nails, you think that I'm ghetto. You think if I wear something bright and colorful, oh yeah, she ratchet, she this, she that. Like you're automatically associating those type of things when it comes to certain races.
Or if like, you know how I be telling you, oh wow, Rebecca, you got that AP terminology. Like, and when you are, qualified and you step outside of these stereotypes, people are like shocked. Like, oh my God, you can build a sentence? You are
It's
a college graduate. It's like, I don't know what idea you got of me.
No, I was gonna say people within our own communities do that because growing up, I remember like I told you, I went to school with a lot of white people. So like there's certain things that I've seen and stuff like that like Sheyla didn't experience until she went to college, right? So then when I go to college and the way I talk and stuff like that, like I could give you AAVE, but I could also, construct a proper sentence and put it together and use the proper verbs, past tense, current tense, everything like that, because I've been around that a lot, and that's not to say that somebody from like who I guess y'all classify it as the ghetto can't do that, but it's like that's not something that's automatically associated with that, right?
Or even if like you are ghetto, that doesn't mean like I don't have a perfect terminology because like Rebecca said, honestly, I don't remember having a white person like a classmate until I was in college. So for me, it was like the opposite. When I saw a white person in school, I said, "Oh my God, girl! Like, what is this?" But like, so for me, me reading was a lot of work. Not only was English not my first language, but also like I was just surrounded by just urban area. But don't get it twisted. Just because I may not use the proper words and the verb and the past tense, I still know what's moving, and I might just say it in a different way. But just because someone uses street talk, don't feel like, oh, we don't know what's happening. And I think a lot of times these higher up people that are in like their uppity whores, they think they're better because they know how to speak more, or they know more, in terms of book. But that doesn't mean that you're smarter than us just because, the way we talk and the way we move is different than you.
Exactly.
But I also want to just talk about this whole LGBTQ plus situation and like the fact that he's trying to like the only two genders we can recognize is woman and male, because T.S. Madison, she's like a transgender woman. She's like an actress, but also like a reality star. I think according to Google, girl, I don't know because I'm not a reality TV person, but she was like the first Black transgender woman to, not only star in her own reality show, but executive produced it. So TMZ caught up with her and asked her about this new executive order from Trump. Take a listen.
Donald Trump saying, listen, there's only two genders. What does that mean to you? How do you feel about that when you heard that?
Well, it didn't bother me because I'm one gender, honey, and that's trans, okay? And at the beginning, middle, and end of the day, you can put legal sanctions on anything. You can never, ever change anybody's identity. You have the right to identify exactly however you choose to identify, always.
I love that. So now what about DEI, which also affects, like, I think a lot of people think it's like about a black and white thing, but it also affects the trans community. Getting rid of that.
Well, here's the thing: the trans community is the Black community. How can we separate the two?
So it's one and the same.
Affects all of us. Anytime that somebody is working against any marginalized group of people or minority, it affects everybody, no matter the sex, gender, race. If it's a minority, it affects everyone.
How dangerous is this?
Very dangerous. We're about to see America go back. America being great again means America being completely white.
Right. Well, not saying right. I have to be unbiased, of course, but so I mean, do you think it's his agenda to make America more white and less black and mixed and trans-centric? Or
when he said that he wanted to go back to 1790, in his rhetoric, talking about doing things from 1790, should have told America already. What were they doing in 1790 to black people, to gay people, to Indian people, to anybody that was not 100% white,
right,
male,
Right.
What were they doing in 1790?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming there was slaves, I guess.
Right. Gather arms, everybody.
When she said gather arms, everybody, I said, oh my God, it's really
And
a
this is
funeral.
completely unrelated, but I was like, who that in the back?
Girl, the security was securing.
But I kind of want to go back onto the thing that you talked about earlier when you asked me about how do I feel about color blindness and everything like that. And I just want to let me help put this into more perspective for y'all. Color blindness has never been a thing. Literally, if you think about it, y'all, I think people like to forget that things aren't as far as they used to be, as y'all think they are. Ruby Bridges has an Instagram page. She's not dead. That means the same people, and I sent Sheyla this video, that means the same people who were bringing lynches to school and boycotting and everything like that, they're still alive too. The lady like 40, 45, 50. It's like we're not as far as some of y'all think that we are. And it's like, from the beginning of time, especially when slavery and everything was in place, y'all made sure y'all found a way to make sure that people of color understood that they were never going to be equal to you. That is why some of these things were put into place to try and show America that we all can be one, but we can't be one in a system that does not want you to be one.
That part. So buckle up, you guys. It has not even been a full week. And like I am in my black and dark colors, I try to be, that's a lie. I don't try to be positive, but I'm going to need all the positivity and all, like, I think this is a very important point in life. Like, you do need to stay in the loop of what is happening, but I completely understand if you also need some space. If you're anything like me, I'm very empathetic. So it's like I also have to put myself first sometimes and like take a step back and do things for me, because these next 4 years, especially if you are a part of a minority group, it is going to be very tense. And I feel like every day is bad news. So try to find a way to, set aside some time for you, but then also don't stay in the dark, honey, because one thing about these white people and like these politicians, they're always clocked in. They always show up. They always vote. They always do all these things, which is why they always remain in power, honey.